Chassidic Gimel, right? There it is. And we're talking about that there is taste in the walls of vessels. And when you go over this, you'll see later on that there's an argument about this, but in the end, it's called tam, the taste of a thing, ke'ikar is like the thing itself. Okay, so let's go over this law very in a short way, and we'll see what's going on over here. You boil in a pot, a brand new pot. You boil in this pot 1 ounce of meat. You put water in, put in potatoes or carrots or whatever, and you cook 1 ounce of meat in this pot. Make yourself a soup, and then you give the soup to all of your guests, and you clean out the pot. Now the pot has no meat in it, but it does have the taste of meat in the walls of the pot. Tam ke'ikar, the taste of the meat is just like the meat itself. How much taste is there in the walls of the meat, in the walls of the pot? How much taste is there? Well, you figure, how much could there possibly be? I mean, you had 1 ounce of meat and you took that meat out. You took it out and you ate it. You ate that 1 ounce. So let's say there's in the walls of the pot, I don't know, what do you say, 1/100 of an ounce? No. 2/100 of an ounce? No. 1/4 of an ounce of taste. That's already overdoing it. No. More than that. 1/2 an ounce of taste. There's 1 ounce of taste. 1 ounce of meat taste is lurking in the walls of that pot. 1 ounce of meat taste. What does that mean? It means that afterwards, if you boil milk in that pot, you have to have at least 60 ounces of milk or something else. Let's see, put whatever it is, cheese with water or something like that. You have to have 60, let's take milk for our purposes. You have to have 60 times as much milk as the taste of the meat that's in the walls. How much taste did we say that's there? Because 1 full ounce of taste. That's what we said. I don't like this law. Well, what can we do? That's the law. If you cook milk in that pot, you have to have 60 ounces of milk in that pot. If you don't, then all the milk is forbidden. Why? Because true, there was no meat there, but there was taste there, and we estimate that the taste was equal to the full amount of the meat that you boiled. What happens if you boil that in several different pots? Does the taste go into each pot? Yes, it does. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so the person says, well, I don't like that law. So why don't you? What's so? It's just the law in the Torah. So, well, the reason I don't like it is because that's exactly what I just did. I cooked 59 ounces of meat. I boiled 59 ounces of milk in a pot that I cooked meat in. Now the whole thing is forbidden. I'm going to have to pour the whole thing out. I don't like this Torah and this commandments. I don't know. I want my milk. This is just 1 second. 1 second. When did you cook the meat in the pot? What difference does it make? I cooked the meat in the pot. Just leave me alone. It was 1 ounce and now there's not. He says, no, it makes a difference. When did you cook the meat in the pot? I cooked it 2 days ago. So what's the difference? Oh, no, then the milk is okay. Oh, yeah, really? Yes, it's okay. Oh, I really like this Torah. This Torah is really nice. I really like the Torah now. Now I got my milk back, right? It says, in fact, if you would have cooked that meat in there 24 hours and a minute before you cooked the milk, then the milk would have been okay. But don't try it on. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. If you ever cook meat in a pot You can never cook milk in that pot. You can wait as long as you want to. You can never cook milk in that pot. Cooked meat one time, even a little tiny bit. You can never, and we say after one day, it's not potent anymore. It's called noten tam livgam. It gives a bad taste. Nevertheless, you cook meat in a pot, you can never cook milk in it. But if you did cook milk in that pot, then if it was within 24 hours, you have to have 60 times as much milk as there was meat. Because after 24 hours, right? 24 hours after you cook the meat, then all the milk is okay. But only what we call b'diavad, after the act. You can't take a pot and let it sit for 24 hours, cook meat in it, let it sit for 24 hours, and then cook milk. If so, you wouldn't have to have milk and meat dishes. You could just have meat that's dishes that are within 24 hours and pots that are after 24 hours. After 24 hours, everything goes. That's not the law. That's not the law. Okay, let's look at it inside. Okay, we did this before. Let's look at it inside. Tzaddik Gimel, Kadera Shabishal Bo Basar Lo Yavashal Bo Chalav. Ready? Kadera Shabishal Bo Basar, a pot that, we're in chapter Tzaddik Gimel, a pot that you cooked in it meat, Lo Yavashal Bo Chalav, you can never cook in it milk. In Bishel Bo, but if you did cook milk in this pot that you previously cooked meat, if it's betoch me'es la'es, if it is within 24 hours of the cooking of the meat, asur, it's forbidden when benoten tam, if there's not more than 60 times as much milk as meat. That's called noten tam. The meat gives a taste. But tzarich l'shar, you have to estimate against the whole entire pot. What does this mean, a calling Torah a pot? We're talking about if you filled up the pot with meat. That's what it means. Filled up the pot with meat, then you have to suppose that all of the walls are 100% meat. Now here's another interesting thing. Let's look at, here's another interesting law, right? Let's say you have a pot and the walls of this pot have, let's say, 10 ounces of iron, of metal. We make things from iron anymore, from steel. 10 ounces of steel. That's the pot itself. They would displace, if you put it in a thing, let's not talk about weight, let's talk about volume. This would displace 10 ounces of water. If you put just the metal of the pot. Right, so now you have a pot, empty pot, and how much did we say is 10 ounces of metal the pot is made of. And you cook in this pot, you cook in the pot, fill it up, and you cook meat in it. Fill it up. How much meat is there? 100 ounces of meat, who knows? And then you pour out the meat. You pour out the meat, you eat it, clean out the pot. Okay, now within 24 hours, you cook milk in this pot. Cook milk. Now, obviously, you can't say you have to have against all the meat. There was 100 ounces of meat. The walls of the pot only hold 10 ounces. That's the maximum they can hold. So we say you have to have in the milk 60 times 10. We say that the walls are 100% meat. 100% meat. The walls are 10 ounces of metal, the walls of the pot. Now they're 10 ounces of meat. Our brother said, well, hey, 1 minute, just 1 second. This cannot possibly be. I mean, the walls of the pot, the metal itself is 10 ounces. It's 10 ounces. There has to be some metal there. What are you saying? There's no metal anymore? It's just all meat? That doesn't make any sense. He says, you're right, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the law. Because we're talking about here taste. So we say that the walls of the pot become 100% taste of meat. That's the way the law goes. But if it passed more than 1 day, from the meat until the milk, before you cook the milk in it, then it's called noten tam livgam. It's called that it gives a bad taste. The pot is, the food, the milk is permissible. Past more than 24 hours, the milk is now permissible, even if you didn't have 60. But what about the pot? Forget about the pot. You have to kosher it. You cannot cook in that pot milk because you cooked in it meat. You can never cook in that pot meat because you cooked in it milk. What about other things? Says the Ramah of Oshar Devarim, but other things you can cook in this pot. You can cook in the pot. And we're going to look and see about this. Does this really make sense? Because let's say you cook milk and meat within 24 hours. So now the taste in that pot is forbidden. You got milk and meat taste in the pot. You can't use that pot to boil in anything. So he's talking about that there passed more than 24 hours between the time. If there's more than 24 hours between the milk and the meat, then you can never cook meat in that pot because you cooked milk. You can never cook milk in that pot because previously cooked meat. Doesn't make any difference if it's a year old. But other things, because the pot never became forbidden, it was more than a day between them. So other things, you want to cook potatoes, you can cook potatoes. But din kisa, what about the covering of the pot? Well, as soon as you cover it over, then it sucks in milk and meat. And some people are machmir in the covering, and they say that the covering of a pot never becomes eino ben yoma. It's always one within the first day. Why? Because they say the covering of the pot, a lot of the steam of the milk and the meat hits it, and it becomes a little bit dirty in the corner. And there's different opinions why he says this. Okay, we can go through the Ramah a little bit more, but let's just begin a little bit from Tzadik Daled. We'll skip this because we're just giving an overview. So, Tzadik Daled. What's the law if you stick a milchika spoon in a fleshika pot twice? What happens? You have a pot of meat. Let's say the pot of meat is 100 ounces of meat. You take a spoon, that spoon is, let's say, 1 ounce. And the spoon, though, you use to stir up boiling milk with. So the spoon is milchik, and you're boiling in this pot meat. You stick the spoon into the pot once, doesn't do anything. This is 1 ounce. There's 100 ounces. It's okay. It's more than 60. Negated. What if you stick it in twice? Oh, now you got a problem. What happens in the problem? You stick the spoon in once, milk comes out. Take it out, the spoon is now forbidden. The spoon is forbidden. It's a milchika spoon that you stuck into meat. Right? Spoon is forbidden. Now you stick that forbidden spoon into the pot again. Ooh. Do we say now that the pot has to have twice 60? One time it has 60 against the milk that spit out. And now it has to have another 60 against the milk and the meat. Do we say that or not? Tune in tomorrow and find out. Have a good day, everyone.